My AI agents are running a board meeting now. And this multi-agent system is part of a bigger project that I call Autonomous Entrepreneur. I have 7 specialized agents that can collaborate with each other and run board meetings to help me make better decisions in my business and to give me an insight into everything what's going on in my business. Today I'm showing you everything. How it works, what my community members are building on top of that, and how you can build your own.
Listening to you guys and reading their feedback, and I'm like, oh.
Here's the problem most people have with AI right now. You have ChatGPT for writing. You have Notion AI for tasks. Maybe Perplexity for research. Claude for coding. A calendar system, meeting summarizer. 5, 6, 10 tools. And none of them talk to each other. And you spend $200 or more on subscriptions. And every single time you open a new chat, you start from zero. No visibility into your business. And I'm not even talking about your business tools or CRMs that have that rich data that AI could use. The approach of having one centralized place for your business intelligence is called AI Second Brain. It knows you, it knows your business, but it can also take action. And we call it GoBot, my secure and cheap replica of OpenClaw. It reads my emails, checks my calendar, knows my revenue, my code base, my content pipeline, projects, tasks, and so on. And it runs 24/7 on my own server, and I have full control of its infrastructure. But the feature that I'm most proud and use every single day is board meeting. More than 300 people are already building their own versions inside my community. But before I show you how you can build it yourself, let me introduce you to the team. There are 7 agents. Each one has a specific role. And here's something different that most people don't talk about. You see, many orchestration systems of agents have a main orchestrator on top that controls multiple agents. Now, if each agent underneath orchestrator is not communicating with each other, you have exactly the same problem as you have in business. You have silos. When you're building this, you want to make sure that each agent is able to communicate with each other and invoke one another. But to start, the general agent is orchestrator. It handles everything that doesn't need a specialized agent. Think of it like your personal assistant coordinating with different board directors or your chief of staff. It's adaptive, it's flexible, and it routes complex questions to the right expert. Second is research agent, and it uses something called React reasoning. Reason, then act. It doesn't just generate an answer. It searches, fact checks, and then quotes the source. And every claim comes with a reference. 3. The content agent is my CMO. It's creative strategy. It thinks about packaging, audience, psychology, and trends. If I ask it about the video idea, it not just says like, oh, that's a great idea, Goda, you're a genius. It looks at everything what I ever done and all my content, plus what's performing very well, and tells me which angle would perform and why. Finance is my CFO. It's chain of thought math. It works through numbers step by step. ROI calculations, unit economics, and it's very conservative with money. If a decision costs too much, it will say so. It also has full access to my actual revenue and transactions. Strategy agent is CEO. This is my second favorite. It uses tree of thought reasoning. It doesn't give you just one answer. It goes and explores multiple futures, multiple paths, and then it picks the one with the highest upside. It kind of thinks like a venture capitalist, contrarian by the design. CTO handles infrastructure. It checks my GitHub, opens pull requests, issues, helps me develop projects. If something is broken in a code base, CTO knows before I do. COO is operations, tasks, deadlines, calendar, SOP compliance. And then there is my favorite one, Critic. It's a devil's advocate. Its entire job is to question things and break things. If strategy says, hey, your community is growing, raise prices, the critic says, like, what if 50 people leave because of that? It cannot be optimistic, and it has kind of baked in my probably like Eastern European approach that no bullshit, no hype, like very critical thinking. And I've been talking about critic mode like from the start of my channel. So of course I'm using this all the time. If you know about bullshit benchmarks, they test AI models on the nonsense questions and see which one complies. Sonnet 4.6 and generally Claude models do not deal with your nonsense. They basically call it out. So imagine combining that model already has on top with additional brutally honest critic. This is like full superpowers that you unlock. And now here's the detail that makes it all feel real. All these agents right now live in Telegram group. It can be anywhere. It can be WhatsApp, Slack, like basically my community members integrated this in every single messaging platform right now. We are using Telegram groups with dedicated topics. Each topic has its own name, it has its own bot. When the finance agent talks, it comes from the finance agent. And then Critic talks, it comes from the Critic bot. Each bot has its own memory, has its own tools and execution and protocols and system prompts and reasoning and so on. Now, my favorite part is that each specialized agent can invoke another agent. So if I'm talking with a strategy and it needs to consult with the finance, it knows that it can invoke finance. There is a lot of kind of like smart architecture going in the background, because if you ever work with multi-agents or just in general many agents and you want them to cross-work, the number one thing you have to think about and prevent is meta-prompting, that one agent pollutes another one, and also loops. Because in a sense, these agents can keep going and pinging each other indefinitely, right? So you have to think about all those details, and it's already baked in a GoBot that my community can use. So now, board meeting functions a little bit differently, and I will explain you why. So I can invoke board meeting either by using /board, or I can naturally say, hey, I'm thinking about launching new product. I want to have board meeting on that. Board meeting has its own process. It first goes to the research agent, then CMO, CEO, and so on. So each agent brings their own perspectives independently. I don't want like cross-pollination. So I want to see what each specialized agent with their data has to say about this. And if I didn't give it specific topic, it's going to look across everything what I communicated with each individually and also the generalist. And it's going to look at the last board meeting session. So more on that in a second. And also collect all the data that we have access to. Okay, so each agent presents its own take. Now, Critic mode comes in, and Critic actually is the only one that has access to each agent's perspective. It looks at what each agent said and kind of says like, okay, so if all agents agree on the same thing, what we are missing, why we are agreeing, what is another perspective, what we haven't thought about. That's exactly the same how it is in the real world with real people. So Critic presents its own take and kind of analysis on each agent. After that, we have board meeting synthesis. Here, very critical, we don't end it there. So when we have a synthesis, this is an input for me, what to think about, what are maybe gaps in data that agents flagged that, hey, they can't give me valid response because we are lacking this critical information. So this is where a human in the loop comes in. This is my part to review what each agent said and provide clarifications, direction, or maybe flag some issues. So this could be back and forth with all the agents in one group. After that, board meeting summarizes, and I can close board meeting. I also baked in that if I do not provide any input, the board meeting automatically closes after 30 minutes. After board meeting closes, this is very important. The board meeting session gets stored into memory database, and it's not storing each agent's input. Because think about it, again, we want to prevent this like meta-prompting situation and hallucinations and like kind of leaking wrong data into future sessions. When you close board meeting, even with real people, what you want is actual decisions and critical points to be brought up to the next board meeting, not the whole messy discussion and clarification. So the board meeting session saves exactly that. So it's clean final call on this session, and the decisions or to-do tasks or projects or anything that is kind of up in the air. So when I start a new board meeting, the last board meeting session is considered as well. All the agents also know what we last time agreed on and worked on and maybe what's missing. Now you might be asking, like, how do you keep track of all this complexity and what's happening? I saw that many people are building like dashboards for agents. The way I see is each agent, I see it as a tool. Same as MCP server or skills. I am building mission control for the whole Claude code setup, which is like GoBot. So in mission control, I have a full architecture overview of how each thing connects, where data is flowing, which skill is using what, which agent is using what is on VPS, what is locally stored. And that gives me the snapshot of my full infrastructure and AI second brain. Now I'm also putting like knowledge graphs, so we'll see how valuable that is. I just like to seeing how information maps to each other. I'm tracking projects and sessions. But the main thing is what I want to add to mission control, of course, observability, real-time data as agents work. In a sense, they can run on their own 24/7. And here I want to share with you what few of my members are building.
Man, I was just reading it as you listening to you guys and reading their feedback, and I'm like, holy shit. And then it says research phase, gathering YouTube landscape, market intelligence, and library data. So the lore guardian, the narrative evaluation. The story you're living is actually clean. The way you're telling it is fractured.
Dan in our community, he basically took board meeting idea and applied it to creative projects. So because the same principles apply, you want to challenge your ideas through different perspectives.
You call a creative impact board meeting, you say whatever the creative idea is, whether it's a script or a post or whatever it is, and it goes through these different board members. Same thing as what you did, but they're more focused. They're focused on different things. Someone is looking for virality. You have somebody that's looking whether it's going to stand the test of time, and you have one that's seeing if it's actually valuable, if it's going to make money, or if it's scalable. Pull out IP from it, or all kinds of things. And then
I love that you control temperature in different ones.
Yeah, that's important. And then they debate amongst themselves with limits. And then you have the final decision maker, really, who is like, he's the arbiter of taste. Although I know taste is not really, you're never going to take it away from humans, at least not for a while. But you still have to have a human in the loop that sees how it makes you feel. But this can tell you if it's derivative or trendy or whatever. And then it goes through what I call a vibe matrix. Based on that, the score that it gets will either green light the idea or yellow light or red light it.
Wow. These are fantastic.
Pretty impressive, to be honest.
Yeah. If you have a clear idea how you want this to work for your business, we basically teach in the community how to set it up and how to let AI do the heavy lifting. Your job is really to understand your business, understand your use case, understand your needs, understand where is the data that we can use and how to use it. And especially if you have like sensitive data, like for example, my CFO, right? We don't want to send the data through API, so we can use local models. If our memory and board meetings is very sensitive, we can self-host databases. You can self-host on VPS if you don't trust that. You can self-host on your machine. If you host on your machine and you don't want external APIs to process that data, you can use local model for fetching and storing those messages. Whereas so much that we can do to get this full autonomy, full independence, and let AI to help manage our businesses, free up time and space in our minds to make better decisions. If everything what I just said really resonates with you, you can click on this video, because this is where I show you how you can get started and set up your GoBot yourself, like a just simple setup. And if you, of course, if you want a full thing with all the features, you can join us at Autonomy. See you in the next one.